Hello everyone and welcome to Talking Reds on a Monday morning. I'm Stewart, I'm here alongside Neil Jones. And you guys probably watched the game that happened yesterday, just like we did. We're really excited about the way it ended and looking forward to us dissecting it and getting our teeth into it. But this is one of those times where my agenda was literally thrown up in the air because, newsflash, Liverpool are in the process of buying a new player. You may have heard last night that Simon Mignolet has agreed a deal to go and sign for Club Bruges, and it turns out his replacement has been identified, and it will be the current free agent, former West Ham goalkeeper Adrian, who will be making his move to Liverpool over the next 24 to 48 hours. And luckily for me and for you, we have the man who broke the story sitting right next to me. So Neil, tell us exactly how the timeline of this event came down.
Yeah, well, thanks very much for the introduction first and foremost, but Adrian's someone who Liverpool have looked at for a long time. I mean, he was in the last year of his contract, he was out of the side obviously at West Ham with Lucas Fabianski, the main man. And so I think it was monitored. There was obviously an understanding that first Loris Karius was going to spend 2 years at Besiktas and then they hope move on a permanent basis. And that Simon Mignolet, the chances were that after one season, you know, it's complete understudy to Alisson that he would want to leave. So he was someone they'd looked at. They looked at a couple of others as well. Jack Butland was one that was always linked with Liverpool, but I think the price of him for an understudy was always going to be prohibitive. Alex McCarthy, another one, but Southampton sort of have three goalkeepers and they haven't yet really decided on which one they want to go with. Angus Gunn seems to be the one at the moment. So Adrian was one that they looked at, but I have to admit that I was surprised that it went so long with Mignolet. I thought he would have left early in the summer, but perhaps injuries to other goalkeepers and obviously, you know, Kavim Kelleher and Vít Jaros both picked up injuries and couldn't go on the tour, so Liverpool were in a position where they didn't have many senior goalkeepers, as we saw from Andy Lonergan signing, joining training. And then on Sunday, Simon Mignolet walks through the mix zone at Wembley, says his goodbyes and heads off to Belgium to sign for Bruges, which caught me out definitely, you know, as you have to admit that sometimes as a journalist, you didn't see it coming, but then moves quickly, and so you ask the question, Adrian, is he is he still on the radar? Turns out he is. He's coming to Melwood today, Monday, and he should be done in time for the Norwich game on Friday. So it's an interesting one. He's a little bit older than Mignolet, but he's played 125 Premier League games, 150 for West Ham, so it's not a great drop off in terms of experience.
No, and I mean, Premier League fans have seen him. He's been in the league for 6 years, whatever, and predominantly we're going to be looking at him in the Cups. Again, I think Liverpool fans will probably remember he actually had an influence of us going out of the FA Cup under Klopp a few years ago when he was man of the match in the game against West Ham. But when you're buying a backup keeper, it's a really hard kind of thing to buy for, because obviously it has to be someone who can come in and keep their concentration when needed, but also knows they're not going to be needed a massive amount. Now, there was a lot of clamour for a different Spanish goalkeeper, one who's already been here before, to come back. Do you know if there was any traction in that, or was it just wishful thinking on our part?
I think it was wishful thinking, to be honest. I think Pepe Reina, I think his time at Liverpool, that chapter's closed as a player. You know, might be proven wrong again in the future, but at the moment I don't think that was ever really an option that was on the table. All sorts of reasons. I think wages maybe one, but potentially Pepe's own you know, ambition and desire to play football. You're right in terms of buying a backup goalkeeper. It's very difficult. You know, you don't get, if you look at backup goalkeepers, you either get very young ones or pretty old ones, don't you? You don't really get the sort of ones that you'd say were in their peak. What you need is a good character. I think that's the first and foremost. Of course, you need a decent goalkeeper, but a good character, someone who the training level will be high regardless of whether they know they're going to be starting on the bench or not. Someone who can come in sort of cold, if you like, to a League Cup tie after 3 months on the sidelines, an FA Cup tie after being on the bench, and also someone that if your goalkeeper does get injured, that you can rely on to be a bit consistent as well. So those are tricky things to find in a first choice goalkeeper. Never mind the backup. So I think, you know, the hope is that Liverpool have found one. They found one with experience. They found one with what I'm told is a pretty good temperament, and obviously someone as well who isn't, you know, they're not having to pay a huge fee and huge wages for as well. So I think hopefully it'll be a win-win.
It's an interesting situation as well because of the nature of the position. I think the young keepers at the club, Kelleher and Grabar in particular, have got a lot of praise from within the club, and they do think they're going to turn into good keepers. But it's a lot more important for them to actually be playing games. So you see Grabara going out on loan. So it was always going to be someone to kind of fill a certain area in a certain time frame almost.
Yeah, I think that's a huge move for Kamil Grabara. Actually, he's gone to Huddersfield. They play tonight against Derby in the Championship opener, and I'll be very interested to see how he gets on in there because I think it's a really good loan for him. People would obviously naturally would like to think that you can promote a young keeper, but you think if Alisson was to be injured for a month and Kevin Kelleher's coming in for a big game, it's a huge ask and it's a lot of pressure on a young kid, and you have to be fair to the kid as well. You know, he might be talented. I know he's talented. Liverpool know he's talented, but mentally that's a huge ask for a 19, 20-year-old goalkeeper. At least with someone like Adrian, he's played, you know, experienced La Liga, and he's played in the Premier League. He's played big cup ties under lights and pressure situations and that kind of thing. So I think it always made sense that Liverpool would go down that route, and then hopefully in the future the likes of a Kelleher or a Grabara can play games in that kind of experience somewhere else and come in and be in the reckoning.
Well, I mean, we don't need to ask about what happens when the goalkeeper goes in and it goes wrong. We all have very short memories of that. But I want to talk about Mignolet in a little bit with a wider context, because obviously he made over 200 appearances for us. He left as a European champion. He almost left with the two big trophies in the game. And yet, I don't think we can really call his Liverpool career a success, can we?
No, not from his point of view. I mean, he could have had 2 league titles, couldn't he, Mignolet as well? I mean, remarkable, that close really to being, you know, unbelievably successful. He's had the Europa League final, he's had League Cup final, and it's just that feeling that he just wasn't quite at the level that Liverpool needed him to be at in a key position. You know, you could argue, I'm sure he would argue, and you know, if you'd have given him Virgil van Dijk straight away from his Liverpool career, if you'd given him that 13-14 season, if they'd had a Virgil van Dijk in front of him, we might have been talking about Simon Mignolet, a Premier League winner. We might have been talking about him, you know, in 15-16 winning the Europa League, and not that, you know, not what we saw in Basel. But at the end of the day, I think what we saw, I think Simon Mignolet accepted it himself, and if you asked him, honestly, I think he struggled to have accepted Loris Karius being ahead of him in the pecking order, and I think he did struggle with that a lot, and I think you could make cases for either of those two. But once Alisson Becker was signed, I think he knew the writing was on the wall, and you've seen the difference a top-class goalkeeper has made to Liverpool. You've seen the difference in terms of the stature of the team, the belief of the team, and also just the success of the team. I think you've seen that there are goalkeepers that get to that level, and then there are goalkeepers that are at that level, and Liverpool have got one at that level, and unfortunately for Mignolet, it wasn't him.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point, really. If he does end up that Bruges get into the Champions League and he comes back to Liverpool, I'm sure he'll get a nice, decent reception.
For now, very popular fella.
Yeah, for now, thank you, Simon, and welcome, Adrian. I mean, I guess we should talk a little bit about the game yesterday, shouldn't we? I mean, technically, Manchester City won the trophy. They won it on penalties after a draw, but I really don't think the winning of the trophy is the part that matters. The part that matters was the game itself. And it was, people call it the classic game of two halves, but I would say it was more like 50 minutes that it took Liverpool to kind of really wake up. But once they did wake up, they were able to cause City a whole host of problems.
Yeah, I saw a quote from Jurgen Klopp after the game to the TV where he said, we've shown we're still here and we can still play proper football. And I thought that was a pretty good way of summing it up. And I also saw Rob Gutman, obviously friend of the rap, tweeted a moral victory. I think he tweeted before the penalty shootout. I know he's a bit on the wind up probably, but I think it did feel like that. It felt like the shootout didn't matter. You know, obviously you want to win it, and it'd be nice if Liverpool put every penalty right in the top corner because he showed that they've got the nerve and that kind of thing. But once it went to penalties, I think it was a case that neither side could really lose. It was one of those, just stick a pin in it. It probably would have been fairer to just say share the trophy like they used to do in the 90s or the 80s. But I thought Liverpool's second half performance was very, very encouraging. You know, not just in terms of the quality of it, but I do think they woke a bit of fire in themselves. I think they found a little bit of aggression. I think the fitness was really good. City, you know, Guardiola himself admitted after the game, we were really tired, exhausted, he said, in the last 15 minutes. And you saw Liverpool were just running through City and capitalising. Have to caveat it, City were without Ederson. Aguero didn't play, Laporte didn't play, obviously the left back, Mendy wasn't in the squad. Fernandinho wasn't in the squad either, or didn't come on. So you have to caveat it with that. But I think if you're talking about from a position where you think, well, Liverpool were at their peak last season and City have probably got a little bit more to come. I think people might have got a rude awakening yesterday and thought, you know what, perhaps Liverpool will be there again come the season's end.
Well, we've been hearing quite a few tales of woe over the last few weeks, haven't we? About how all of the good momentum we built up over the last 2 years has been dashed because we haven't bought anybody. But the line from Klopp all pre-season long has been, this squad is good enough to win the league as it stands now. And I think yesterday was a good reminder to everyone that, you know what, he might be onto something there. Obviously, it would have been a better game if maybe Mo Salah had his shooting boots on, but Neil and I were discussing this earlier. I do think that off what I saw yesterday, I'm putting him down for lots of goals this season.
Absolutely. I mean, I do player ratings on my Facebook page, and just as something, you know, a bit of fun, obviously, but give Mo Salah an 8 yesterday, and lots of people comment underneath saying he cost us the game, he missed these chances, but just look at the 90 minutes, you know, in total, and he was such a threat. And I think a little bit last season we lost a little bit of Salah, the runner. I think we saw a little bit of Salah trying to dribble and sort of, you know, be in tight spaces. I think we saw Salah trusting his pace a little bit more again. He went past Zinchenko down the right multiple times. It was great feet in tight areas. One where he worked a shot to hit the post. There was one where he went past about 5 players sort of in a tight space with a nutmeg and that kind of thing. It just looked like a player full of confidence and belief. And I do think with Salah that if the first one goes in, he probably gets a hat-trick tomorrow, as yesterday, sorry. And if I was Norwich, Norwich on Friday, I think I'd be sitting there thinking, oh God, we're in for something, aren't we, on Friday night?
Well, I dare say that the Norwich fans were probably glad that we don't have Luis Suarez anymore. Well, you never know, Mo Salah may well take that mantle from him. We'll have to wait and see. I was really pleased with how we played in that game, and I was pleased as well to see once again the depth that we were able to from the bench, the likes of Joel Matip, who obviously scored the equaliser, Naby Keita, even Adam Lallana impressing people. In terms of the lineup for Norwich on Friday, how much of change do you expect to see between Sunday and Friday? Yeah,
it's a tough one, because if you were going on yesterday's performance, I would say that Trent Alexander-Arnold might be in a bit of trouble, because I think he struggled a little bit. He has looked a little, I don't know whether it's off or just a little exposed in pre-season. He certainly did against Raheem Sterling at Wembley, and when Joe Gomez went to right back and Liverpool were in the ascendancy, Liverpool looked a little bit more solid with Matip. That would probably be the big decision, you know, which 2 of those 3 play, who misses out, Matip, Gomez or Alexander-Arnold. It'd be harsh on all 3 of them, really. The other question would probably be the midfield, the third midfielder. Wijnaldum's quiet against City, but obviously a massive favourite to Klopp. Milner missed out due to a sort of a tightness in his muscle, but he walked through after the game and he wasn't limping, so I think it was just a precaution. So you could argue Milner could come in. Keita did well off the bench. You could argue he could play. And then obviously the other one is Mane, and Mane back in training today. Massive boost for Liverpool. He'll definitely be in the squad on Friday. Whether Liverpool will just unleash him and say start the game, because he is. I mean, I've been told that he is one of those players that you could have 6 months off, Sadio, and you could say to him do 90 minutes and he'd have no problem. You know, he's not one who takes a while to find his rhythm again. So the temptation would be there to play him or give Origi another goal from the left. I think it'll probably be Origi from the start and Mane on the bench. I would argue Wijnaldum will get another chance in midfield, and then my gut feeling will be it'll be Gomez at centre back and Alexander-Arnold will get another go at right back. But we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. It's really interesting. Now, obviously, for those of you who do want to go over the game in more detail, we've got plenty more shows over the next 24 to 48 hours going into that. We've got the post-match show and the post-match pint, which are already out. We're doing a free show today, and obviously we're going to have the review later on in the week. Now, something else that's happening in the Anfield Wrap, something we've told you about quite frequently, but it's still going on in case you haven't got your orders in yet. Our merchandise shop has got 2/3 off currently, so go onto our website, theanfieldwrap.com/tour merch, and you will find all of your goodies on there. That's enough for us today. I think we're going to go and maybe watch the game again, maybe go and see what Adrian's looking like in training, maybe go and see what Sadio's looking like in training. Big thanks to Neil and to you guys for watching.